popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me, and Justin Brown for your movie needs. Media popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it. Spoil it in your face. That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault. We could be on the Wheaties box, medium popcorn. That's all I'm saying. I'm Eddie Collins, and I'm joined by the illustrious Tatiana. Say hi, Tati.
Hi. I'm going to say this once and for all.
Okay.
Please stop with the accents.
Okay. I was just trying, I was trying
You
to...
have a lot of strengths. Accents are not one of them.
I appreciate you telling me that I have strengths. You often don't tell me that. I was just trying to pay a tribute to Mr. David Harbour, who played the Red Guardian. I love
right, but if you're going to do Russian, you need to do a proper Russian accent as an American.
I don't get paid Marvel bucks where I get to do the accents like Florence Pugh and shit. You know what I mean? I'm just Brandon trying to make it in this world. Not everybody gets a star in the 36th Marvel Cinematic Universe movie.
The 937th Marvel movie.
It's not that many yet.
It's getting convoluted.
It's getting a lot. It is getting a lot. But yeah, folks, we're talking about Thunderbolts asterisk.
Asterisk.
I always say asterisk. That's weird. That's like
asterisk.
Yeah. Like I said, starring Florence Pugh, David Harbour. We got Sebastian Stan in there as Bucky. You got Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell, and Goldie Hawn's son.
He plays John Walker.
Yep. You got Leah.
Olga Kurylenko. That's
Taskmaster. She was in Black Widow. And then you have Hannah John Kamen, who was Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And you have Julia Louis-Dreyfus returning as Valentina, who's basically a more sinister version of Nick Fury, trying to put together her own version of the Avengers. And she basically uses like the quote-unquote villains, or I'll say antagonists, let's say that, of like recent MCU movies or shows, because, in the case of Wyatt Russell, his character was like the new Captain America and Falcon and Winter Soldier. He went nuts after he had the super serum, actually killed the man with the Captain America shield, which they actually comment on.
Yeah, and it was all recorded too, right?
Yeah, it was like out in the world and stuff like that. It's just about how Valentina's been using these folks as mercenaries, and we follow. It's interesting because the trailers made it seem more of an ensemble piece, but this really is a Florence Pugh Yelena film.
It is.
She's the main character.
It absolutely is. And full transparency, I don't know enough about Marvel as a whole to have much more than what Marvel is giving me. So I think that's, my perspective here is like, I'm like the everyday audience member that's just watching whatever Disney Marvel's pumping out. So,
but you have enjoyed some of the movies. I mean, but you.
No, I have. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy this one. I just felt that with this movie, I understand why they need it to exist in order for the next phase, iteration, or the next set of movies to make sense.
Yeah.
But I absolutely felt that this might have been one of those that could have been an awesome TV show. And I know like they're trying to move away from it.
They have to, because I think it's diluted too much.
No, well, I think there was an oversaturation, right? Where all the projects they didn't want to make into a movie became TV shows. But I actually think this storyline would have been great as a miniseries, TV show, etc. But nonetheless, yes, the focus is more on Yelena.
Which is fun. I mean, Florence Pugh's an Oscar-nominated actress.
Yeah.
Which is wild that we actually have two of these folks that are Oscar-nominated, because Sebastian Stan got nominated for The Apprentice recently. So
I mean, they are thespians.
They got him. He's going to be the MCU's like Hugh Jackman, I think. I think they're going to make him work till he's like 80.
And
he's looking old too. I mean, Sebastian, like he's a good-looking dude, but he looks tired.
I mean, what is it? The super serum to make him a super soldier is just. They didn't say it keeps you young forever.
Yes, this is true. This is true. I mean, I felt like the movie did a decent job of bringing everybody together in a way that made sense. And we have the introduction of Sentry, who's played by Lewis Pullman, Bill Pullman's son. So there's a few. I don't want to call them nepo babies because I think Wyatt Russell is talented.
I mean, also spoiler, babe.
No, that's like he's in the trailer and stuff like that.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see.
I mean, the trailers for this one, like, it's interesting because, you know, like in learning about how trailers are cut and stuff, they gave away a lot of what happens in the third act in the trailer. Because stuff doesn't really ramp up till the third act.
What trailer did you see? Because
when all the people are getting zapped or whipped away, were like, you know, because the Sentry, the Void.
I didn't see anything. That was actually a surprise to me.
Oh, that's good for you. I saw that. And I was just like, okay. I mean, when we were watching the movie, when that happens in the movie, because it takes place in the third act takes place in New York. And folks, you know, remember, we're media popcorn, so we might spoil some stuff. Spoiler alert right now, just in case. But it does take place in New York, the third act. And there are things that are happening to people where I was like, yo, if I lived in New York in the MCU, this would be hella triggering. Given the blip and shit, I'd be like, fuck no.
Well, the blip affected the whole world, not just New York.
True.
So,
but specifically in New York, you'd be like,
but yeah,
like
if I'm in, I mean, I'm born and raised in New York City, so yeah, there are certain things that are traumatic. But you just did an Ice Cube, yay. That's a very weird connection you just did.
Listen, it's been a long day. I've been up since 4 a.m.
Okay.
I got my ghost mixed up.
All right.
I also just watched the thing with Ice Cube, so that's probably why I got that in my head. But
anywho, I would say that you know, you did mention that what's her name?
Florence Pugh, Yelena.
No, Allegra de Fontaine. Yes, they are trying, like, she is the new Nick Fury, but she's not as likable.
No, not at all. They really were. It sucks because Julia Louis-Dreyfus she's a great actress, and she's fine in this movie. It's just weird seeing her elevated to, like, you know, that kind of role in the MCU in that comic book movie universe. Like, she's supposed to be the Amanda Waller from like DC stuff. But the thing is, she's kind of doing Selena from Veep.
Yeah, from Veep.
I think that's what they hired her for. I think that's what they told her. They're like, we just want you to do that. And she's like, okay. Like, she's like, I don't have to do anything extra. Cool. No problem.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I'm not necessarily connecting with the character, because for her as an actress, we've seen this character before. That's you know, I did, and as I was watching it, as I see she's working with her assistant, absolutely, I was like, oh, this is Veep. Yeah. This is Veep 100%. And I do think that the comedic elements they did give away in the trailers. Yes,
they gave away some jokes in the trailer.
And I think those are like their hardest hitting jokes.
Yeah.
So, I was feeling a little disappointed in that. Oh, you gave away that much funny. Because I don't know that they needed to, but I also understand that Thunderbolts may not be as known as the Avengers and stuff like that.
It's definitely not. And that's the thing. I think that, you know, what's interesting about this movie is, like, it takes some of the antagonists from the movies and TV shows, and not that they weren't memorable, but Yelena, like, she's an anti-hero. She wasn't really an antagonist in Black Widow, she was kind of in the Hawkeye show, right? Because she thinks that Hawkeye killed Scarlett Johansson's character of Endgame. That's a whole thing. So she was great in that, but she's still basically a hero. Bucky, obviously, we know he has complicated past, killing the Stark parents and stuff like that. But he's
also
and all that. But John Walker was like fucking just crazy, and he's an asshole because we learned about his family life. That's what was cool about the movie. That's where actually, like, I liked what we got from the different how Sentry uses his powers and gets into people's heads, because it actually revealed that this movie is a lot darker than I expected, and it's a lot about mental health, depression.
Yeah. But I think what it did was it humanizes them. And obviously, not to say that they're not human, but most of them are you know, humans with superpowers. Not that they were necessarily.
They're just not right. that's the thing. It's like, some of them have enhanced powers, but then mentally they're all fucking crazy. They're all jacked up. They all have issues. Everybody has issues.
I mean, everybody does, but what I was saying was like, when they were humans, they weren't on like the up and up. Yes. When they received whatever it was that made them superhuman.
Well, remember, Yelena.
So it's like exacerbated, which I did point out too. I was like, Yelena, like, yes, she's a good fighter, and we know that she's trained to be an assassin from a young age. Yes. But she's catching the business without any broken bones, and I'm like, she's just a regular ass like human being.
You can't jack up a pretty face like Florence Pugh. It's okay with me.
I mean, she could have broke a rib at the very least.
She might have been. I mean, they did get fucked up. There's a scene where we see the full extent of the Sentry's powers, where I'm like, oh, he's like the new Vision. Basically,
yeah,
but like a human form.
And it is getting a bit redundant.
It is because
but I know we're waiting for new pieces to come in now that we know that Disney has acquired certain other studios, and so certain properties now exist under Disney again. So there's that, and then also Kevin Feige, I think, really trying to have a macro vision of tying everybody together in the slightest, but still giving them their own individual spaces. I think that because we've only even in the comic books, right, like the comic book is this person or this group of people, and occasionally you get a visitor, right, you get a crossover, but it's still very much their stories. And I think with this, we know other places exist. We know other heroes exist in certain timelines or certain universes. And so I think for me, what's getting confusing is I don't know what universe we're in. And so this is the
MCU one. This is you talking about Earth 616?
Yeah, like, is it Earth 1999? Yeah. Is it Earth 42? Is it, like, there's other universes within there, right? So the whole timeline, like,
multiverse isn't involved in like this or Brave New World. Like, that's what was so weird about this movie is I'm like, how are we veering away from multiverse, but also like that's like the thing we're leading up to right now, the culmination of it.
But we already have the introduction of a multiverse.
No, but we're not getting the continuation that's propelling us towards now Doctor Doom. Before it was Kang the Conqueror, and now the big bad's going to be Doctor Doom, and we're not. That's like 2 movies from now. We get Doctor Doom, Doomsday. And so, in regards to like what you're saying about the multiverse, this is all Earth 616 or whatever the fuck.
But that's they don't establish that. We know, like, if we're following along, we know that these people exist in other multiverses. So which multiverse is this now? I think there's doing a disservice, especially if you're watching Loki. Once you watch Loki, you're like, okay, like literally and even Deadpool versus Wolverine, like.
It's Deadpool and Wolverine.
Whatever, bro. It is very late for us to be doing this.
Okay.
All I'm saying is, as a regular person who I don't have a hard on for Marvel or DC. I'm just a regular schmegular person just looking to be entertained. Right? It is getting a little bit like which brick road am I following? And I'm feeling a little bit like, yes, we talked about superhero fatigue years ago, but this is feeling a little Game of Thronesy where shit is just getting so convoluted that you're like, okay, I know this is a means to an end. Yeah. I wish they would just tell us that. Or is this movie necessary? And I think, my review is kind of very telling as to where I'm gonna.
I think the everything that's really important for things going forward as the whole MCU don't come into play until the last 10 minutes. And that's 2 post-credit scenes. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. And we already know because
technically it's 1 post-credit scene because one of them is kind of silly and stuff.
Well, technically a trailer has already been released telling us what's coming up next. So were we really that surprised?
No, but it was also like, about the actual title of the group. You know what I mean? Like, because there's that asterisk, and so like,
Yeah.
and so like I'm trying not to, folks. If
Yeah,
you if you could kind of figure out before we get to the third act of the movie where they're going with this movie and what the actual title like of the group is. It's like because Thunderbolts is actually Yelena's like junior soccer team or some shit.
Yeah, it's
it's cute though. It's cute.
I mean, this is giving it's giving Marvel meets Fast and Furious. Every turn is family, right?
Yes.
Family. We're family, but we don't know each other, but we have to work together like a team. And so everybody who was a villain or an anti-hero before now gets a redemption arc, and now they create a new team.
Yeah.
And then like now we're just supposed to be like, yep, they're the people we go to when we need help.
I will say there's one character where all the villains, all the antagonists are basically put together in a situation where they're kind of like tasked with taking each other out because they're double crossed. And there's one of the main characters that immediately gets taken out, and you're like, oh, I mean, but that makes sense because again, this is where Marvel's kind of all over the place. To your point, is they did that long ass trailer with the chairs for Avengers Doomsday. And they listed several people from this movie, except for one of the main antagonists that are in the film. So you're like, okay, well, clearly, and that's exactly what happened. It's very.
I mean, yes.
sloppy.
See, so you pay attention on that micro level.
Yeah.
I did not. I was like, this is already too much. I thought Robert Downey Jr. was done. So I will say that I find this new phase is struggling just a little bit. But I think it's struggling because the characters they have are less popular, right? And ultimately, we're still hanging on to things that exist in other movies, right? That have yet to be addressed. We know mutants exist now, and we're trying to figure out when do they come in.
Yeah,
we still have the is Blade happening? Is Blade not happening? It's
definitely not happening.
It's so there's so much where it's like I think there were a lot of other things that people have been asking for or waiting for, and I don't know. I'm curious to see how it all ties together. But I did allude to Game of Thrones, which is where I hope that they don't shit the bed because they're making stuff up instead of like following comic book canon.
Yeah, it doesn't feel cohesive anymore, and obviously there's a lot of changes that have happened with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, the Jonathan Majors controversy, the multiverse just not really resonating with audiences, the oversaturation with the TV shows. It is becoming much because I haven't watched any of the ground level stuff. I haven't watched Echo. I'm slowly getting through Daredevil just because I'm kind of tired. Like I love Daredevil and I love what they did on Netflix, but I'm also like, there's so many other things we could watch. And I think for me, the issue with the superhero genre in general is now there are things in this movie where we asked the people that were around us if they'd seen Gen V, the spinoff of The Boys.
Yes.
And they were like, no. And I was like, so you probably had a better experience watching this and thinking something was a little bit more original.
Yeah. And it did feel redundant. If you do have knowledge of other things that exist in entertainment, not Marvel related. Yeah, so we did talk about The Boys. We talked about Gen V.
Yeah, because there's a character that's very like reminiscent of what they do with Sentry in this.
Yeah, and even the entire storyline.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about Invincible.
Yes, a little bit. Yeah.
And there's like just some things felt a little just like we've seen this before, and so it did lack a little originality for us. But I mean, there are lots of people who do love superhero stuff, and they are gonna have the same background knowledge that we do.
Yeah.
And so, with that being said, I am curious to see how the Marvel audience receives this.
Yes. It was
because I know the Marvel audience isn't always very kind to women being leads, and this is very women being in the lead, very forward.
Yeah.
In that space, and I don't see that really changing. not just with this sort of group of the Thunderbolts and whatnot, but I think in this phase of Marvel as a whole, women are coming to the forefront and they're being put in those positions to be the next generation for all things Disney and Marvel. I will say though that the main cast does a great job playing their characters.
Yeah, they have good chemistry. Eventually, Wyatt Russell stopped screaming all the time, so like he kind of calmed down. We got some more context about his character, U.S. agent, and his home life. Like, there's some dark stuff in here, and it's actually interesting because between Brave New World and this, I want the MCU to kind of lean more into like, tell us about what a life is like as like a quote unquote superhero, and like how shitty.
But nobody really wants to see what's happening behind the curtain.
I do.
You always say that, but then
stories.
that makes it almost too real, right? Your superheroes are
they're meant to be fantastical. They're meant to be,
and this whole world, this whole concept is fantastical.
This is true. So yeah, folks, we're gonna rate this bad boy, and but I will say there are some really cool things in this movie that aren't in the trailers, that aren't spoiled. Sentry has some really interesting powers and abilities that the characters experience, and it was cool how we learned more about Yelena and what she went through, because she went through a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and Florence Pugh plays those beats very, very well. And I just want to know where this is all going. I think for me, it's like someone's just following all this. I'm like, where's this going? But nonetheless, Tatiana, as you know, we rate movies on scales of popcorn, small, medium, large, XL for the exceptional. If a movie does not deserve a fresh bag of popcorn, we put it into the stale pile of popcorn, where we pile piles and piles of stale popcorn on it. So we watched The Thunderbolts, directed by, I am sorry, I should have had this up, Jake Schreier, who also did several episodes of Beef, and a movie called Paper Towns. Ooh, I hated that movie, actually.
Yeah, I was like, hated
I stopped watching that movie, actually. But it stars Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, who we didn't even really talk about, Wyatt Russell, Louis Pullman, and Geraldine Viswanathan, who's a really great Asian actress, who replaced Aola Debris because she had to drop out because of casting for scheduling conflicts. And David Harbour. What say you, Tatiana?
Thunderbolts asterisk is getting a small.
Ooh.
And
okay.
For all the reasons I said, I will say I do think that there are moments in here that they're okay, but it's not like, oh, that was so cool. And I also think visually too, it's not like the visual effects were cool. I don't know that anything has changed, and it felt very formulaic now that we've seen 30 plus, almost 40 Marvel movies.
So many.
We didn't even include the TV shows in those numbers.
Sweet God.
So now that we know this Marvel formula, it's feeling like I like you mentioned, which I originally mentioned, I need to know where are we going? What's the end game with this? I know you talk about Doomsday. I think we need to just hurry up and get there for this stuff to make sense. And we might have a different appreciation for it when everything is out in the open and you revisit it, like chapters in a book. But until then, it is definitely getting a small. And I would say that I gotta be honest. If it wasn't for having to do this review, I don't know that I would pay to see it. Yeah. I think I would wait for it to stream.
You didn't even say see whatchamacallit. Yeah, you seem like you're kind of tapped out a little bit of the MCU.
I mean, I'm just a regular schmegular person trying to make sense of everything. And there's also a lot of entertainment out there.
There is. There's a lot. I know it this one was a little bit better, but like for me, it's also frustrating because when I think of Brave New World and the potential that had, and it stars Anthony Mackie, stars the gentleman who plays Elijah, like some really meaty storylines there that were very diluted, and then I see this movie where it's predominantly white cast, and they got to touch on a lot of things that you wouldn't expect to see in a superhero movie when it's just kind of like all right, now we're getting uneven as to like when these directors are given these chances to do these movies, who actually gets to have free reign and kind of explore all the themes they want to do, and who's restrained with having to add 20 plus minutes of exposition set up future MCU things. So just putting that out there. But I'm giving this a medium. I definitely think it's an improvement upon recent MCU films I've seen. But again, I don't know if that's, because there's just a better story here, or if there were fewer, chefs in the kitchen for this project. I thought the cast was really, really solid. They did their thing. Especially for the folks that started off in the TV shows, they elevated their characters to be represented on the big screen and warrant this film. And it was just great being able to see David Harbour's Red Guardian. Like, I really, really like his character. I like what. I have a feeling that he's going to be one of the tragic deaths possibly in an upcoming film. Just because, like when we get really likable characters, like what's the way to break the audience's heart or like make us realize, oh, maybe Dr. Doom ain't someone to fuck with. You got to take someone that we really care about. So before that, remember in Infinity War, that was Loki, because we were all like, we finally like Loki after Ragnarok. He gets killed within the first 5 minutes in that movie. But then, of course, he's brought back. So no one really stays dead.
That's what I keep telling you. It's
all crazy.
Disney Marvel met Fast and Furious.
Oh my God, it really is. But yeah, I'm giving it a medium.
So I gave it a small. You gave it a medium.
Yeah.
Definitely let us know what you guys think and what you would rate it.
Yes, leave a comment on our YouTube page, youtube.com/mediumpodcast, podcast, or leave us a comment on Spotify. They allow listeners to leave comments there. Or you can email us at mediumpod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Thunderbolts and, whether what your rating would have been.
For sure.
On that. All right, folks. Well, Tatiana, tell the people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on Instagram at Boricua Collins.
Y'all can follow me at Frodo_Blackens on Instagram and Threads, FrodoBlackens.com for show dates. And, of course, you can follow the show at Medium P Podcast on all social media platforms. Be sure to go to youtube.com/Medium P Podcast. Push that subscribe button so you get a little about all future reviews and celebrity interviews we have on the channel. And also consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/Medium Popcorn. We have $2 to $15 tiers. All of it helps the show, and all gives bonus content for your ears so you can have that buttery excellence flowing out of them.
My goodies, my goodies, my goodies, not my goodies.
Oh, that would have been a fun song for them to fight to.
No.
All right.
I mean, I got ideas.
We all have ideas. All right, we all. Talk to y'all soon.
Bye.
Medium popcorn. We are two niggas spoiling movies. Yeah. Brandon Collins, that's me. And Justin Brown for your movie needs. Medium popcorn. Woo! You haven't seen it, well, we're gonna spoil it.
Spoil it in your face.
That's your warning. So if you get pissed, it's all your fault.